Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Habits You Love. We are excited for our special guest today. We have Steve Washuta, so a former public relations specialist turned fitness author of Business 101, a video course creator and a certified personal trainer. Steve has a passion to teach the tools needed to succeed as a fitness professional. So he's a COO of Truly Fit, an online fitness business platform for personal trainers and clients to connect, and hosts the Truly Fit podcast for tips on fitness, wealth, wisdom, and health. So welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to chat today.
Yeah. So at Habits You Love, we love to give people the space to share their stories, share their transformations of their habits, maybe going from habits they didn't love to transforming their lives and now having habits and daily practices that they do love. But with you, though, it seems like maybe you weren't loving the way that your fitness business was going just after going through what you thought you needed to do as far as, getting the certifications, applying at facilities, continuing ed and making all the things, the website, the flyers, all the things. You're now a thriving fitness business and helping others have the same. We're excited to dive into that. So maybe just go into a little bit of that process and transition for you, how that all started, why you wanted to become a trainer, why it wasn't working, and then now how you found the tools and the right way for it to work for you and other people.
Well, I career transitioned. A lot of trainers do. I rarely talk to someone and say, like, what was your first career? And they're like, I was a trainer. I've been a trainer for 30 years. It's the only thing I've ever done. They've always started somewhere else and they transition into it. And usually it's because you're in some sort of office job like I was, some corporate nonsense job, and you have what I call like the office space moment where you just go, I'm going to burn this place down. Like, I cannot do this anymore. I need to do something else. And if you're somebody who has been playing sports your whole life and you've been involved in fitness and nutrition and things of this nature, personal training is an easy path to go, or it seems. It also has that entrepreneurial aspect where you're like, well, no one's over me. I have like complete autonomy. I can do what I want. I can train these kind of people. And you, much like realty, like being a realtor, you have this vision of like what could be in your own little business and how much money you can make. But it's not that easy. That's what you think is going to happen. But what happens is you go get a certification and you think you're just going to walk into a gym and they're going to hand you a six-figure salary and you're going to start working with people. But that's not the case. The cream rises to the top. It's a really low barrier to entry. It's easy to get your certification. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to be successful and make money. Mm-hmm. So you have all of these different trainers that you may be competing with at a gym. And like I said, the cream rises to the top. So you have to find a way to get clients over those other trainers. No one's helping you. You have to use sort of your entrepreneurial spirit and build a business. And I think the first thing that people do, not just, this goes for podcasting, this goes for being a real estate agent or a trainer, is they go, I need clients. I need viewers. I need more people. How do I do that, right? And they don't focus on what you should focus on is like, how do I just be good at this job? How do I be a good realtor? How do I be a good personal trainer? How do I be a good interviewer and podcaster? They go, I need more people. So what I did, like a lot of other people, is you go out and you make flyers and you try to talk to people and you go online and you try to do all this marketing. Meanwhile, you're not working on honing the craft of yourself, being a good personal trainer. And when I finally sort of slowed that down and became a good trainer and focused on my clients and built slowly, and things started to come together. And I think people, unfortunately, don't see that. They're always chasing clients instead of chasing to be better at their job.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw that you, on your website, it said, a year after doing all that, crickets, and then another 3 years, crickets. So you did just say, it kind of builds slowly over time. So you would say, during those first 1 to 3 years, you were mainly focusing on marketing, like, hey, I'm a trainer, everyone, I'm a trainer, and not so much like honing in on that special craft that you have, like your personality, why people like to work with you. And then it all sort of clicked kind of at the end of that 3 years. Or what was like what was brought to light?
Well, the saying goes, is like you create your own luck, right? So eventually you start grinding and you're doing the right things and you work with a few clients and word spreads and maybe you meet the right person. That's sort of what happened to me. I met a person who was at another facility that was much bigger than mine, that paid better, that had way more clients, that had better equipment. And they found me doing, like, I was filling in for a class in a smaller facility, and they found me and they said, hey, listen, we need someone who can teach, TRX. Can you come up to this facility? And then, That was sort of like my initial step into becoming successful. But like I said, you create your own luck. It was me grinding all the time, doing the things I had to do to then meet the people. If you're in the gym for 12 hours a day and you're always helping out people, and people walk in and maybe they're not going to pay you, but they go, hey, do you mind just for 10 minutes, like give me some quick stretches on how I could help my hamstrings? At that time, if you don't have a lot of clients, take the extra time, help everybody, because you have time on your side at this point. It's different when your book is filled, but when you have time on your side, help every person, because you don't know who that person is and how they could potentially help your career down the road.
Well, I was just thinking about how when I had my knee injury several years ago, it was like the worst thing and the best thing that ever happened to me, because then afterwards I had 20 different people telling me what I should do for my knee or how I should fix it or how I should go about things. And I kind of had to come up with my own recipe as to what worked for me. And then later on, when I see these people with knee injuries, it's like, I'm an empath person, so I see them and I automatically want to help these people out, and when you've been through something like that and then you're able to help other people out, it's really a blessing. Yeah.
And then just kind of your journey to becoming a trainer. I mean, then you worked for corporate, and now you're on your own. And
I think for a long time I was just into sports and athletic. I was bartending on Siesta Key Beach, going into the gym all the time, and I wanted to be a personal trainer for a long time. I didn't know how it was going to come about. And then I received a message from one of the head trainers at a gym, and he said, man, we'd love to have you as a trainer. I said, well, I'm not certified. They said, well, we'll pay for your school. We'll get you certified. And so that was kind of the beginning of mine. I was almost limiting myself from not allowing it to happen. I'm like, well, if this happens and this happens, then I'll do it, and then, but all those things started lining up. It's like, okay, well, this is a possibility, and this can happen. And, I can make a living doing this, and I can help people. And it's an awesome journey, and it's awesome to help other people.
Career transitioning is very scary. And I write about this in my book. I think the biggest problem that people don't sort of realize when they do it is you're not starting over. You have skill sets from either other careers or just like from life skills that are going to work with your new career in some aspect, right? So I worked in public relations, which is like creating, maintaining relations between an organization and its constituents. It was basically just being like, working with people in the right way, being honest, being truthful, figuring problems out. It's like, well, that works in training, right? You're working one-on-one with people. You need to be a good listener. You need to ask them questions, figure out problems. And you can take any of the skill sets that you previously had in other jobs or just life skills and combine them. Never think that you're just completely starting over in a career.
Right. You're stacking skills. You're stacking those skills. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think anything's ever wasted. Anything.
Yeah.
Like the canning salon job I had when I was 14 is probably contributing to to my life some way right now. Just I don't think anything is ever wasted. So just know that. Like I like that you said, you're not starting over. You're just kind of shelving that part of your life, and just know that you obtained certain skills and maybe grew a little bit in your confidence, and now you're just taking those things into the next. So I like that. We see personally with personal training, I don't love the corporate side of personal training. I've never been in a corporate gym, but I just see so much turnover in a corporate gym setting when you're trying to be a trainer. I guess the question I'm asking is is personal training dead in a way? And how could we separate ourselves from the rest of everyone trying to do it? I mean, I think with the evolution of group fitness, I feel like one-on-one personal training did maybe take a little dive and a hit with that. But how can people just separate themselves from the rest of these people trying to make it as a trainer in a corporate setting?
Yeah, eventually you have to niche. You can't just say I'm a trainer. Like, okay, what's your specialty? You're like, I don't know. I just do a little bit of everything. That doesn't tend to work. It's great to do that in the front end of your career so that you learn a bit of everything, right? You want to work with, let's say, the senior population and athletes and obese and people with injuries. So you learn all the different modalities, but eventually you really have to niche to set yourself apart. Number one, you can upcharge for that niche, right? So Tyler goes, hey, I only work with people who are recovering from knee injuries. Well, that's considered a specialty, right? So people are willing to pay more to see Tyler because they're going to go, he has an expertise in this. It's not just a general training session. I think that's a really important part, is finding some sort of niche, but also, like we just talked about, being introspective about your skill set and knowing how am I going to do this? Can I do group classes? Can I handle 5 or 6 people at once? If I can't, well, then I have to maybe just go one-on-one. But personal training being dead, I wouldn't say it's dead. I just think it's transformed a little bit more to not just being a general personal trainer and people having to niche down quicker.
Yeah, having that specialty. Yeah, Tyler does both.
Like you said, I think that's awesome advice, because you're right, and there's so much information out there to choose from that you really need to be specific on what path, I guess, you're taking or what your goals are. And so the more specific you get, you can kind of adapt your training that way. So that's good.
Yeah.
What are some important attributes that coaches and trainers need to have? What do you think are like a top 3? What are the most important?
First, it's, and I've said this in different iterations already, but being introspective to see if you're more of like a science brain person. I call them like an anatomical sleuth. We all know those people. You might work with them at the gym who like really know the body well, right? They know every muscle, they know how things move, but maybe they're awkward, right? Yeah. And then there's the other side of the spectrum where it's somebody who has that rah energy. They're infectious. They come into the gym. They're like, oh my gosh. But you're like, they don't really know the body that well, right? Yeah. That's okay. It's okay to be one of those. Ultimately, you want to have all of those skill sets. But before you do, it's like, okay, I have to take advantage of the skill sets I have now and make sure I build my career around that. If you're somebody who doesn't know the body well, you shouldn't be doing like assessments all the time, because you're not helping people, right? And vice versa. If you're someone who's awkward, you're not going to like teach Zumba because you don't have like the energy to do it, right? So you have to really understand that, or else you're going to fail. And we briefly touched on this, I think, pre-podcast when we were talking, but 85% of trainers never make it full time, and the reason why is because they think it's going to be handed to them on a platter, and that's not the case. And the only way to make it is to, number 1, differentiate yourself. Number 2, be honest, be introspective with your skill sets, and then learn how to like have a niche so that you can upsell one thing that you do better than everyone else.
That's nice.
That's great.
Awesome information.
Yeah. I feel like you definitely have to, in my experience, you have to be a good listener, because people just want you to be their therapist also.
Part of the job.
Yeah. Like a hairstylist. It's like, all right, you're going to come sit in my chair for 3 hours and complain and bitch about your life. But I'd say you have to be a good listener for sure.
But it's what's going to set us apart in the future. I talk about like AI. Eventually there's going to be a program, right, that's better than Tyler and I, where it can just take all the metrics, right? Kayla puts in all of her metrics, and it's going to be able to spit out a better program than we can do, just because it has all of the data in the world inside of it, right? And we do not. But what it's never going to be able to do is like remember that, on Thursday mornings, sometimes you wake up early to like spend extra time with the baby. So maybe on Thursday evenings when we're working out, I make sure that that's like an easier workout for Kayla, right? Because she doesn't sleep as much, right? That personal side where you listen and the client, their routine. It's like, that's a big part of the job, hence personal training.
Yeah, that's true. You can have a whole workout written out and everything lined up, and someone comes in and they got some ailments, or they're hurting, or someone's on some equipment, and everything kind of goes out the window. So you have to be able to adapt.
And some people aren't. I'm sure you've seen it, right? Some people are like, I had this whole workout written out on paper. We were going to do it on the, all on the cable machine, and the cable machine's broke. What do I do? It's like, well, that's, you have to be flexible, and you have to know just some general things that you can do with your client and not be so, type A.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say even there's a million workout apps out there now. There's so many different group fitness studios, around $100, $150 a month. Yet people are still paying for personal training and paying almost that an hour, So I do think it's more of like the accountability. Like if I'm going to pay this much money, I'm going to show up. And it's like the personal human connection, I just think punching a clock and going into a corporate setting where you're maybe not getting the clients that you would want to work with, like, at the corporate gym you worked at, you were just getting a whole different variety of clients, Break time.
You're fine. How old is he?
He'll be 4 months next week.
Cute.
Hey, but we can't set him down because he'll cry. Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
I have a
I was gonna say
almost 3-year-old. She'll be 3 July 1st.
Yeah.
And It's funny how like you have this amnesia. Like if you handed me a 4-month-old now, I would have no idea what to do with them. You just make it through and then you just forget. No, there's not.
So I want to dive a little bit more into like, why do you help people do this? Why, you have a book, Fitness Business 101. Kind of what does that cover? Obviously you're not training anymore, but you found that maybe the gap, the hole into the business, and you obviously changed the way it worked for you. So how are you helping other people do the same?
I'm a contrarian by nature, so I kind of like was angry at the certifications. They teach you about the body, they give you like some baseline insights into like exercises and different like, dependent upon if you have National Academy of Sports Medicine or ACE, they all have their own way to like frame how they train things. Like this is the strength phase, this is stability, this is whatever. But it's like this knowledge is all for naught if you can't make money. Like why you do nothing whatsoever to help people actually get a job or start a business or understand any of those aspects. And like we talked about, so many people fail, including like me at some point, right? I had to make the decision, am I going to go back home? I was in a small beach town in Georgia, which we already talked about off camera, or am I going to fly back up to New York City and have to start working in corporate America again because I'm just not making it here. So I just wanted to write Fitness Business 101 to give people a little bit of insights to say, hey, there's no shortcuts. I'm not telling you like the exact thing you can do to like, make it big, but there are certainly ways to avoid sand traps, I would call them, so that you don't get stuck and feel like, hey, I'm the only one who's stuck. No, everyone's stuck, but here's some ways to maybe just expedite your journey. Instead of it taking 3 years like it did for me, maybe I can help you do this in 1.
Yeah, awesome.
So do you feel like your public relations background helped with that? Or was that anything to do with it?
It helped with the promotion of the book a little bit because I was in media relations, knowing kind of how to get in touch with journalists and how to get promoted without having to pay for it is important. So I think it helped with that. I mean, I'm sure it helped with my writing a little bit as well, just because there's a lot of writing in it. But yeah, like we said, all those skills sort of stack eventually.
So if you could go back and start all over, how people are like, if I start my business over again, this is what I would do differently. What would be the first thing that you do differently? Say someone on here does want to be an online coach or a personal trainer. They're really passionate about health and fitness, and they have people asking them for help. Like, what would be the first thing you would say to do?
Restructure your mind. Get money and the number of clients out of your head for the first 6 months or a year. That's not a goal. The goal is not to fill your schedule. The goal is not to make a certain amount of money. The goal should be to be good. And one way to do that is to go to multiple locations, because the more locations you're in, the more equipment you're going to see and the more types of training you're going to see. So, it doesn't matter where you live, right? Florida, Georgia, New Jersey, there's going to be gyms that have different types of people because they just flock to that kind of gym, right? So you have the meathead gym, and you have the gym that has more like, more of the rich people. And then you have the gym that has the senior citizens. And then you have the gym that has maybe whatever else, the younger people. And seeing all the different training styles and all the different equipment, because they're all using different equipment, is going to allow you to be better faster. And then also it allows you to pick your niche faster because you don't know what you don't know. So maybe you think you want to help people be an athlete, but then you actually start working with people who have knee injuries or hip injuries. And you're like, you know what, this is actually my passion. So get in front of as much as you can. Don't worry about the money right away. Don't worry about the clients right away, and just learn and you'll be better for it.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I'm only a couple of years into my personal training. And I feel like at first I had this vision of like, oh, I'm going to help younger kids and then I'm going to be able to train them as they grow. And that's great, but I found that my clients that were there every day that would pay the money were the older people. They showed up every time. I didn't need to use as much equipment. Things were much more simple, and they needed a little TLC, and I kind of enjoyed their wisdom. So it's like, it's a great combination here. I thought I wanted to work with young people. Yeah, I still have a couple of younger clients, but I was amazed at how much those older people really gravitated towards me. I gravitated towards them, and it's really worked out for a long time, some of them. So
I mean, that's You're preaching to the choir. That's exactly my story, is that that's where I started out and that's where I ended up. And not only that, is that they have the money, right? Like how many, if a parent has 6 kids, maybe one of them's 12, he's the oldest, it's hard to dish out however much you're charging per hour for personal training. If you're retired or if you're just somebody who, did very well for yourself and you have the money and you live in a golf community or something, you're willing to spend that money on a personal trainer. Not only that, but the older senior community talks. They go to bridge, they go to dinners, they have all these groups. They're very group oriented, which means oh, sorry, I have to go to my trainer this week. I'm visiting my trainer, doing this. So that also helps word of mouth kind of spread, as you probably already know. So I think I wouldn't tell anyone to go train seniors just for the sake of money. If you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. But if you do enjoy it, there's probably an easier path to making money.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think you've had to, which is good, you've had to figure out how to work with less equipment too.
Yeah.
One of the things he mainly does is go to people's houses and train them, and you bring your own equipment with you. So you can't obviously bring a gym full of equipment with you. So
I made my personal transformation in a large corporate gym. It took me 5 years to really transform my body and my mind, and that's the gym ultimately that wanted to hire me. And when I got hired on, I thought, well, look at this. I got all this equipment and all this stuff to help these people, and this is going to be great. And after a while, I realized these people don't need all of this stuff. We can do a lot of this work with very minimal stuff. If we're starting out, if we have a very maybe lower level of athleticism, and we can still do a lot of athletic stuff with minimal. But yeah, I don't know. That was kind of my epiphany, was we can still get work done with not a ton of stuff.
There's a trainer named Kai Evans. He was actually on TV for a while. There was a show with like Sylvester Stallone on like NBC or something, and he was on this show. And he has a really great line that says, your body is the only tool in training. The rest of these things are just toys that you add to it. So that's really all you need, right? So like once you know how the body moves and you know a few simple things, it doesn't matter. Give me one 15-pound dumbbell, I can give you an hour workout.
Yeah.
So I do agree that is great that you're already like in that mindset 2 years in, where you can be confident and walk in and be like, I don't need a bunch of toys. I can just look at their body and get them to their goals.
When did you start this whole personal training thing? How many years ago?
I started, I guess I would call it full-time, like full-time as far as like dedicated full-time, when I was 25. So I'm 39 now. So that's 14 years. I'm sure, Tyler was the same way. I mean, I've been lifting my whole life. I've been in gyms since I was 15 and doing sports since I was 15. You're acquiring those skills that you're still, passing on, for a lifetime. But yeah, for 14 years, I've been doing it full time, dedicated.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
what do you think the biggest change is that you've seen in the last 14 years with training?
Virtual training for sure. COVID expedited it. It already existed and it was going to come regardless. But with COVID, you had no choice. If you didn't, you wouldn't survive. For a lot of people, there was no other way to do it, especially in cities or states that were shut down for longer periods of time. So, the online personal training is a blessing and a curse. I'm starting a virtual online personal training company, right? So I'm all for it. But in the same light,
Yeah.
There's something I don't like about it. And the main thing I don't like about it, we touched earlier, I think off camera on this, was you never want to be the smartest person in the room. And if you have never trained in a facility, if you've never done the hard work and been to different places and saw different equipment, and it's just you and your client and the camera, well, you think that everything you're doing is right. And there's no one who's more tenured to maybe help you out. There's no other modalities or styles to see. And I think that could be dangerous for both the client and for personal growth.
Yeah, I like how that you're very open to, it seems like you're very open to learning things another way, or things being done another way. I don't know. I just see you're open-minded to
just continuing to learn and
right.
humble yourself. Be like, I'm never going to be the expert on this, just always continue.
And that's how you become so knowledgeable and skilled, is always seeking that.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah.
There's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it's happened to me many of times. I'm sure it'll continue to happen to me. You have to remind yourself, where you start to gain a little bit of knowledge about something, and then you think you have enough knowledge about that to then you speak articulate about it and tell people about it. And then we do, right, whatever that is. Like I think I was doing it in golf recently, right? I was like, because I started playing more golf, and then you get a little bit more knowledge, and you notice it's sort of like a peak and a valley. You're like, I actually don't know anything about this, right? So I think that happens a lot in the health and medical and sort of fitness related things, because they're just so complex.
Yeah.
That we think we know something. Like when I was in high school, we cold stretched. So you didn't do dynamic warm-ups. They're like, okay, we're going to go on a run. Before we go on a run, like stretch your hamstrings for 90 seconds. We know now, like that's not good for you. Like that's not what you do, right? We cold stretch at the end. We do dynamic warm-ups at first and active stretching. Things are ever changing, and it's just always good to remind ourselves, like, you don't want to be the guy who like claimed that the keto diet's the only diet that works, or like this is the only way to work your chest muscles, and then find out down the road that you were wrong, because you'll look like a fool.
Right.
Or your body is always changing. Your specific body is always changing too. So what works for me working out 10 years ago might not work for me now. What the type of workouts I do, the type of food I eat, when I eat it, might not work the same, because your body's changing. So just don't think you need to stick to that. When I was 15, I did this kind of workouts, and that's the one I'm going to stick to for the rest of my life, because your body's changing.
That's very true. Yeah. I mean, I always talk about the difference between health and vanity, and how, when you're younger, it's way more of a vanity focus for training. As you get older, you're focused more on health. And there's a lot of people who are, if you're 43 and you've had 2 kids, and you're listening to like a 17-year-old tell you how to get a 6-pack, like she has no idea. Like she hasn't been through what you've been through. The body has changed. Things are different. I think we need to always take advice from people who have like either been there and done that, or like are similar, paths that we've been on.
So true. I think a lot of actually, I'd say most of my clients back in the day were like, they came up to me and they were just like, I want to look like you, so I want you to train me. So you kind of be that walking billboard. I mean, I would never hire anyone that didn't look like they knew what they were doing or wasn't practicing what they preach, So I definitely think that's a huge factor of practice what you preach. If you're going to tell someone to do something, but you're not doing it yourself, that's a little inauthentic, I think.
Yeah. That's a whole big thing in the fitness industry. That might be a whole nother conversation that's going around now. It's like, hey, can you be a trainer and not be in great shape? Because there's a lot of them, and
well, they have patients though,
Well, like you said, some of these trainers are really science-based, and they know their anatomy, and they know a lot of things, but maybe they're just not in practice of some of these things, or it doesn't mean you can't be knowledgeable about it. So
true. Yeah, you'd be like, I know all about the body, but I just don't put it into practice myself. I just eat cheeseburgers and do whatever I want. So tell us a little bit more about you. Okay, so you said you're a dad, you're creating this online business. Like, what are your hobbies? Like, just scrolling through your Instagram, I see you kind of like, you like to poke fun at things, and you're fun. So like, what are your hobbies outside of health and fitness and the stuff that you've been creating?
I love golf, all things golf. I'm newly addicted to golf, so that's certainly been a big part of my life. I love mixed martial arts. I don't practice anymore. I did Muay Thai for 10 years. I'm just like, the risk reward is not great. So I'll still hit the bag, but I'm not going to a gym and taking the risk of getting injured. I can't do that at this time. But I kind of have maybe kind of an inverse like role as a dad than a lot of dads do, because I spend more time probably with my child than my wife does. She just has a career path in which she's working like 45, 50 hours a week. So I'm the one who wakes up in the morning with my child, and I'm the one who picks her up when she's sick from daycare and those sorts of things. I'm cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm playing a little bit of the old school maternal role as well, but I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to be an entrepreneur and have these businesses and do all the things on the side, but also be able to help the family out. And that'll probably change, as you guys know. Like, dynamics change. Like, if she decides to go part-time, then I'm going to be the one working more, and she's going to do that. But that's part of being in a healthy relationship. It's just saying like, like we were talking about Oklahoma City Thunder basketball. Sometimes you're going to be the guy who scores 30 points, and sometimes you're going to be the guy who plays defense and not score any points. Like you have to be willing to change roles.
I tell her, know your personnel. You got to know your personnel, know your roles, and got to ride the hot hand too. Sometimes if you're in a sport, you got to ride the hot hand. So got to play through those players that are got the hot hand.
Yeah, we're kind of in that same role right now a little bit. I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I just like being an entrepreneur. I don't want to put my child in daycare and, to go back to the 9-to-5 grind. So we're figuring it out, and we have a lot of goals and, mainly around just health and fitness. I think my career has taken more of I'm in like a shift of I still want to be in health and fitness, but I want to do it differently than what I did 10 years ago as far as personal training and the online stuff. And then Tyler's kind of just now coming up on it. So we're trying to figure out how to blend those together while still helping people. And I think that's just both of our passions and values, is just helping people. And I think there's a lot of people that just don't get it. It's just so funny to me. People just don't know the basics of just health and fitness, of nutrition or exercise. So we're kind of here to jumpstart those people into understanding just even the basics, because you can build upon those pretty easily. If you don't have just like I said, just the basics, everything can seem overwhelming, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's hard having that entrepreneurial mindset, especially sometimes in health and fitness. And because you guys are both sort of empathetic and you want to help people, because you probably have a million ideas and you're like, well, what, eventually you just I'm that way. There's always another idea. There's always another project in the background. And you're like, how much time should I dedicate to each one? When can I just, zoom in and be hyper-focused on one? And I don't know. I mean, it's not in my personality. I don't know about you guys. I'm always going to be juggling 5 or 6 balls and having a few things on the fire and waiting until one of them presents itself.
That's how I am. Which one's going to take off first? So with your book, who should read your book?
There you go.
Fitness Business 101.
Shameless plug.
Who is your target audience for someone to pick your book off a shelf or order online and read it?
I would say anyone who is even thinking about career transitioning into some form of personal training, be it part-time or full-time, maybe even some form of coaching. Otherwise, could be just coaching in the health and wellness space in general, right? There's so many different coaches now that do various things in the health and wellness space. And I would say more generally, certainly people can take things from it if they're just trying to career transition, not even necessarily be a trainer, because it gives you a lot of confidence, like we talked about before, and how to really analyze yourself to use those skills and stack those skills in your new career. But certainly anyone who has even just entertained the idea of, what, I've been doing this fitness thing, or I've been doing this nutrition thing for a while, and my aunt and my best friend have asked me for advice, and people at the gym always say, you do this and that, and I might want to just dip my toes in the water and see if it's for me. This book would be for you.
Cool. Yeah. So it seems like it's mainly career transition with the emphasis on health and a trainer, health professional.
Yeah, and not that a current trainer couldn't take things from it. There are things in the book that are advice for even current trainers. Like I have DOTS, duration, object, tempo, stability is an acronym I made up. And I think that really helps trainers who get into the situation that Tyler and I talked about before, where you had a plan and now that plan, something happens, right? Someone's using that equipment, your client has an injury. How exactly do you come up with a plan quick? By always thinking duration, object, tempo, stability. So I could switch the duration up to make exercises more fun or challenging, right? I can do 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 12 reps, 19 reps. The object, I can do a shoulder press with a kettlebell, dumbbells, barbell, a ball, sandbag. Tempo, I can do 3 seconds up, concentric.
How did that acronym come about? I'm an
acronym nut. So
awesome.
I don't know why. I just have this this ability to just make acronyms and think of acronyms. It's my favorite thing to do.
Your Truly Fit is FIT stands for something, right?
No. Oh, fitness industry teacher.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Acronym for everything.
That's good.
An acronym for everything.
I like that with analogies. I love analogies because I'm a very visual person. Even in my nutrition coaching, I will literally dumb it down for you so kindergarten level, because I'll just use an analogy of like, okay, just think of it like this, and they're like, that makes sense. So just finding other ways to teach
That,
people.
that's a great skill. I feel
Yeah.
like, especially in the fitness world, because it's so hard sometimes to get people into like a proper position. But if you can like use an analogy, sometimes I say to my clients when they're squatting, like pretend the car door's open and you're closing it with your butt and your hands are full of groceries. You know, just like getting them into positions using analogies, I think is like a really good skill.
Yeah.
I used one not long ago. We had a gentleman in class. He's a yoga guy, and he was doing a one-legged RDL with a barbell. He said, "How do I do this?" And I said, "I think that's a warrior 3 pose." Just do the warrior 3 with the bar. He said, "Okay." I was like, wow, myself that I was able to translate it so quickly, and I was like, but that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. We definitely need to.
One thing I wanted to kind of touch on was I like what you had to say about, if it's just you and your client there, that you're not being held to any standard but your standard, kind of, and that you like to get into all those different spaces, different kinds of gyms, different kinds of people, because I feel like that's the only way I've learned, whether it was when I was bartending or now through training. But I remember when I was in maybe 21, 22, and I was learning to be a bartender, I would go sit at different bars and sit up there and watch other bartenders, watch things that they did, their mannerisms, how they talk to people. And I would say to myself, like, I don't like that they did, or the way that they communicated that, or just. And so I would pick up on those things, and then I would use those things when I would bartend. And I don't know, I think it really helped me out. And so now with the fitness coaching, group fitness classes, and doing the personal training, I've gone to other gyms and watched coaches in group fitness classes, just because I might like a motto that they say. I might like the way they, and so then I feel like that kind of allows me some new ideas, inspiration, spawns creation type things. So.
Totally. Not to mention the potential networking. You never know. Like we talked about, you meet some of these people in this other gym and they start a gym down the road and they're like, Tyler was here shadowing on his own time. He's a serious trainer. Let's go get that guy. So that's another thing. But I think a really important thing that you said too was not just the things that you like, you're noticing things you don't like. And that's important. I think, to be able to look at whatever the bartender or the trainer and go, you see that thing he did? I think that's probably not going to get me clients or not going to make me successful. And I don't know if people do that enough.
Yeah. Maybe don't sit down on your butt while you're training someone in front of everybody, or, little things, or on your chewing your gum or your toothpick or whatever it is.
We're all just out here trying to be the best we could be. Why do we pick a career with has to do with other people? No, just kidding. Okay, well, yeah, that was great. Like I said, I'm excited to get your book. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation. Sorry, this little guy is like falling asleep. Cool.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation.
Yeah, it's good talking to you.
Definitely actually, sorry, we missed one question at the end of our podcast. We'd like to ask all of our guests just one thing that you know for sure. This doesn't have to be about your business or training or anything, just like it's just kind of like a motto or something
one piece of advice
or just a statement or anything that if you were screaming from the mountaintop with a megaphone and everyone heard you and they're like, I'm going to take what Steve said and go implement it today, what would that one thing be?
Don't rush to be an expert in anything, because you'll show yourself to be a fool. Take your time, go through the process, learn, talk to people who are smarter and better than you at it. And you don't need to be an expert. You can still help people and be knowledgeable about something without claiming you're an absolute expert. Because if you've convinced yourself you're an expert, you're never going to look to grow.
Right.
I love that. Oh, I think that's really hard in this generation nowadays, because everyone just has FOMO of like, well, that person's doing it and they see someone online doing what they want to do and they don't know anything about the journey or process that they've been through to do it. So I think that's a big, like, I want it and I want it now and I wanted it yesterday. So I like that. Just enjoy the process and kind of our last conversation we had with someone, it was just like, you never arrive. Really, you just never arrive anywhere. It's a journey.
It
So
reminds me of the saying, good things take time and great things take longer. It's kind of
Yeah.
reminds me
Yeah.
of.
Tyler's
I mean, it's
is quotes.
Right quotes. Right quotes.
that's funny. Well, we all, yeah, that's well combined. That'll be great. Analogies and quotes, and you just keep it fresh. I mean, I think parenting. Lastly, here, I think parenting falls into what we just talked about. Like, you can't possibly be an expert in parenting ever, but you don't want to rush it. You don't want to just, you want to enjoy every moment, and you want to go through it and see what's there and learn a little bit more. And even though you learn something, it might be wrong the next day, and that's okay.
So true. I didn't research anything really. I think I read one book it's called Good Inside, just kind of about like psychology and stuff and emotional intelligence with kids. But like, I didn't try to learn anything because I was like, all this could go out the window if I, as soon as they're here, you never know what's going to happen. So I try not to overload myself with information. I just try to learn as I go. So we are now learning that he falls asleep under ring lights.
Personally, I feel like it's a little bit of a slap in the face sometimes too, if people tell you like, this is what you're doing parenting, you should do it this way. It's like, well, every kid is so different. You don't know my kid. And also like all of the things I've learned, like all of my crystallized knowledge over time is like, I'm using what I've learned to help my child out. So are you telling me that I've learned all the wrong things? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be so butthurt about it, but I just feel like when I like see these videos on Instagram, people are like, this is how you should parent your kid. I'm like, I think maybe you should hold off on giving advice on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, everyone should definitely follow Steve. He has some funny videos. I like the one that you did. I think it's I probably shouldn't call her out. The workout instructor that doesn't talk or cue, and she just does her own workout, and it's like cracking up that one.
Just flailing around, doing weird movements and injuring people.
That's good marketing, apparently, because I don't know how that works, but she shall remain nameless. Good. All right. Well, have a great weekend. Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah,
we look forward to getting your book and putting everything in the show notes about your website and your book. And when is your course going to be ready? The
Truly Fits platform is already ready, like in beta. So if there's somebody here who's like a part of like a fitness facility, they can reach out to me and we can get you on. But individual personal trainers, it won't be ready maybe for another 6 months or so, but it's going to act like ClassPass. If anyone's used ClassPass before, think of ClassPass for personal trainers. So rather than going on there looking for a class or a thing, you're going to look for Tyler or Steve, and you're going to find people from all over the country, personal trainers on one side, clients on the other side, a way that they can connect.
Matching them up. Awesome.
Wow, is that going to be nationwide?
It's going to be nationwide.
Awesome.
So if you're in an area,
that's awesome.
So you can filter by area, you can filter by type. You can say, hey, I'm looking for someone who is yoga certified. You can filter by time. If you want to take a live class that's going on at that time, I can say what classes are live right now at 5 p.m. so that I can click into the Zoom and take it.
Cool.
He's literally linking us to our dream of being able to be free and travel and help people all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of moving parts, but yes.
You for sure. All right. Well, have a great night and a great weekend, and we will catch up, or we will keep up with you on social media and all the things.
Pleasure to meet you. Yeah, no problem.